I think there were several key points in your presentation that also linked up with what Paola had been saying. Is first of all that the data is the key. If garbage in, garbage out, that's like the key sentence for any system. Also that sometimes it's important to combine different systems, or depending on what your usage is, you actually have to combine different systems to make it work to your use case. And also that technology is not everything. I mean, sometimes you have to assess whether this technology is really for you in your use case or whether it is not. And sometimes it's okay staying with the paper if that is actually helping you much better and if that is more adapted to your local situation. I'd like to start our discussion. Let me quickly move to this slide. And depending on the time, I actually think I'd like to start with the last point and how to keep your data safe. And I'm just going to go over to you guys. And maybe if René could start on this point, because what I think a lot of the users are interested here is what did you find particularly challenging about moving your data to the cloud, and are there specific type of data where you would be hesitant to do that, or would you kind of, given to your experience, would you always do it?
Yes, I think that's a very good point. Actually, the ICRC did not move any of its own data to the cloud. This is very clear. I mean, we're managing all our data on servers, at intranet level. So there's I would say, very few of the key ICRC data. In fact, there's none of the key ICRC data which is at this point in the cloud. There's some data which is destined for the public level, which is then that can be hosted in the cloud. Now, in this particular situation, we were working with local authorities, which had a need to have data which is not confidential, which is simply at organizational level, where the level of security, since it's authenticated, was more than good enough. I mean, it's as good as your Yahoo email, basically. So we figured, okay, for this use it is possible, and so we discussed it with them, and they agreed to have this data stored in the cloud. But so, I mean, I would distinguish. It's true that for an organization like us, at this point, I would say there's still some reluctance to go to the cloud for key or for strategic information. Now, it can be classified, and since it's, I mean, all the software, I mean, it's so much easier somehow to manage this data in the cloud, and you don't need to set up all the server systems in the background. It always has to be balanced, and I think it's you will definitely gain some momentum in the future.
Well, thanks. I think that's a good point. I'd like maybe, Paola, if you want to say something about if you had to convince an organization to go to the cloud, what would you say about, kind of helping them to discuss the security concerns? As we heard now, it's not necessarily that people are ready to put all their data on the cloud.
I will tackle this question as a GIS expert. As René said, not all of the data should be on the cloud. But the cloud offers an effective and selective environment where you can share your data. And you can, effective because it's easily shareable, it's timely shareable, and selective because you can have selected groups of people that you are sharing your data. For example, ArcGIS Online is offering flexibility on where you want to put your server, whether it is before your firewall or after, and then how you access and share your data. There is another point which I've touched in my presentation is about ownership. The data that you share on the cloud, you are the owner of your data. You don't want, and this is the case in the Esri cloud. The user is the owner of the data. And this is extremely, extremely important. You don't want your data to be lost in the cloud. And who's the owner? That's very scary. So if I have to convince, if I was the manager of an organization and I was going to choose a model, a solution for my organization, I would choose the solution where there is a long-term stability of the solution, because René mentioned Magella can collapse tomorrow. And what if? Then, of course, I would have my GIS officers having their own data in their desktop. That's where interoperability is very important. And then I would choose a solution that has a long-term ahead. It's existing since a long time and will exist far more than just a popped-in solution in the last couple of years. So this is one of the parameters I would take into account.
Great, thank you. Emily, maybe you would like to say something about it, because Google has like different, has a different strategy than other systems in terms of, managing the data, and also in terms of data ownership, and also depending on which Google you're using, you actually are exposed, or you can actually share more data, or you cannot share more data. Maybe you want to actually say something about that.
Yes, but I'm not sure that Google have a different strategy about the security of the data. I'm totally agree with Paola. Indeed, it's important to be sure and to be sure that we are the owner of my data. Even if we put the data on the cloud, I am the owner, and I know that my data is in safety. So, of course, we can put all the data in the cloud. It's not, we have to classify the data, sure, but we can put all the data in the cloud. It's a safety environment, and for example, we have some, on Google now, we have some big customer in financial, des banques. So I think it's very important to know that you are the owner of your data, and you can manage your own data even if it is on the cloud. So, yes.
Great, thank you. Maybe Jean-Thomas, if you want to say something, what do your potential clients ask you when it is about data security? What do they want to know? What do you tell them?
In French or in English?
You can do in French. That's completely fine.
Well, Esperanto. I'm sorry, I cannot speak Esperanto. Well, I'll try in English. Yeah, we'll see. Well, because we are a small company, we are facing this every day. We are small, and we are born in the cloud. So we are totally convinced that everything is going to be more and more in the cloud. Maybe in some cases in the defense area, where there are some constraints quite high, well, it might be better to be out of the cloud, but everything is going to the cloud. But as people said a few minutes ago, it's important to have the choice. You have the choice, everybody has the choice, and has the freedom to define their strategy. So we are in the cloud, and we have to give arguments, but we have to prove, and that's the most important thing I wanted to say today. We have to prove every day. So to prove every day is to be able to support our customer sharing data in a secure environment. And as I said a few minutes ago, we invest half of our budget in millions of euros, even for small companies like WebGeo Services, just about the security. Because if we have a security problem, then it's all the vision of the cloud that collapses. So we have to be the best, and we have to be better than everybody. Also our customers. We work, for example, for a big company like Renault in France, and we host their data in our cloud, and we had some security investigation you cannot imagine, like even the color of my socks. So we face this every day, and we have to prove and prove and prove, and we'll see in 10 years what will be next stage of the IT.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. I think Paola would like to add something.
Yes, I went through an issue a few days ago. Mm-hmm. On the 23rd of October, I was testing different solutions, and I won't mention the name of that solution. It was a web mapping solution. And I got an email in my personal account saying that that specific web mapping solution was not working due to cloud maintenance. Very interesting, because if we put all the data in the cloud without having a desktop system where we would manage our data scientifically, I would call it this way, and secure that still we have a backup, we have a copy, then we would be trapped. And that's the reason why I'm not mentioning that web mapping solution, because it's totally nothing against the new. I think new initiatives are very, very important. They bring along new gasoline, but it could be risky. You see my point?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. It's actually a very good point. Maybe if any of the others here would like to add to that event, like what was your experience and what you would be doing, and maybe in the meantime, if any of the people here in the audience have questions, you could also come forward.
Yeah, thank you, Christoph Geiser. I represent eSmile. It's a web-based application that has an integrated set of modules to collect data, analyze, map, and share. I would like to go on the line you just went through, saying that it's not just a question of are we putting everything on the cloud or not. There are other combined strategies where we could combine the advantages of the cloud and the advantages of having local hosted solutions, for instance, and that's pretty new, and that's what eSmile is building on. You can build something that is called, well, it's a bit technical, but basically you build a secure tunnel between your local machine and the cloud, meaning that your local data is completely secure. There you have a real ownership. If you want to shut down your server, you can physically do it, but the data is still globally available. And I think that can be a real revolution in the field we're interested in. Thank you.
Thank you. Any of the panelists wanting to respond to that?
But I think also it really depends on the level of uptime you need to have. I mean, for some applications you need to have a real time, all the time, and if you cannot afford to be down for 1 hour. And it's true that situations like that, personally I would really not favor going to the cloud, especially because of that. Even though the supplier will promise to you an uptime of 99.9%, okay, what if you don't have your uptime? I mean, and then that means you're stuck and you can't do anything. So, but then also there's a whole range of other uses where your uptime, okay, if maybe for a few hours there's no internet, no one dies, and you can, so you still have all the benefits of having someone hosting the data for you. You don't have to do anything, and you still have the uptime you need. So I think it really depends on what kind of data we're storing and what use we want to make of it.
Je vais juste ajouter quelque chose en français, parce que j'ai une expression en français, mais pas fort. Moi, de plus en plus, on essaye de comparer les uptime, parce que c'est un peu ça, l'uptime d'un service cloud, mais on oublie souvent de le comparer avec un uptime d'un service interne. Et c'est des problèmes de riches, hein, de savoir avoir un uptime interne de 99,9. C'est à ça qu'on est confronté. Alors oui, la semaine dernière, il y a Amazon, ou il y a une semaine et demie, Amazon a eu une rupture de service. Amazon. C'est tout le monde est sur Amazon. Esri est sur Amazon pour le cloud. Web GeoService, on a un petit bout sur le cloud. C'est pas rien, mais on commence à s'y habituer. Enfin, On s'y fait en fait. On s'y fait parce que on met en place dans le cloud des choses qui nous servent et qui nous apportent beaucoup plus de bénéfices. Moi, je le vois comme là, en tant qu'utilisateur, sans le cloud, j'aurais pas réussi à créer une société comme Web GeoService il y a 10 ans. J'aurais dû mettre 1 million d'euros sur la table juste en IT pour avoir le niveau de sécurité que j'ai aujourd'hui pour mes collègues, pour partager des données de manière sécurisée, pour accéder aux emails. Et c'est cette révolution-là qu'on est en train de vivre dans la géographie. Donc oui, il y a encore des moments de... C'est pas infaillible, mais les bénéfices sont vraiment là. Enfin, je pense que c'était un peu l'idée que voulait...
Well, yeah, thank you for specifying that. I think there was somebody in the cloud, Edouard, over there. Can you... in the crowd, sorry. I'm already influenced by our discussion.
Hi. Peut-être en français. Vous avez, ma question s'adresse aux 3 providers de technologie. Vous avez évoqué tout à l'heure le HTML5. Il y a des propriétés de storage dans les dernières versions de HTML5. Donc, j'avais vu quelques essais à un moment justement de mettre des tuiles dans Gears, par exemple dans Google Gears. Est-ce que ce soit S3, Google ou Web Service, est-ce que vous exploitez cette propriété? Parce que c'est notamment une façon de répondre à ces problèmes d'uptime, en fait, d'avoir une partie qui fonctionne en offline de façon asynchrone.
Alors, je suis désolée, mais c'est vrai que je connais très mal Google Gear, je connais très mal cette technologie, alors je vais oser dire...
Ça marche plus parce qu'en fait...
C'est ça, c'est ce que j'allais dire. Donc je serais ravie de pousser cette question un peu plus et de vous envoyer une réponse par email et un petit peu plus, mais c'est vrai que non, je sais qu'on utilise l'HTML5, donc tout ce qui est toutes les API Maps et donc toutes les API qu'on utilise même pour faire des appels au cloud, donc Maps Engine sont basés sur de l'HTML5, mais c'est vrai que je saurais malheureusement pas plus vous répondre, je suis désolée.
Je peux peut-être compléter, ouais. HTML5 pour nous c'est quelque chose d'assez prometteur, mais qui a encore des petits soucis de maturité. On pense que c'est vraiment l'avenir du web. Votre question c'est est-ce que je peux bénéficier du local storage de HTML5 pour justement gérer ces petites questions d'interruption.
Voilà, en fait à l'époque c'est ce que Gears a,
ouais, bien sûr,
la raison d'exister de
Gears. C'est pas encore simple.
Arrêté à cause de ça.
Ouais, c'est pas encore suffisamment mature. Le HTML5 qui va pouvoir apporter des choses à mon sens sur le problème de connexion, mais pour l'expérience utilisateur en temps réel. C'est peut-être un peu technique, mais ça reste quand même très lié au temps réel. Pour l'instant, on peut commencer à précharger des tuiles dans son cache pour aller sur le terrain, mais c'est pas encore suffisamment mature. C'est quelque chose quand ce sera plus mature qui sera partout, je pense.
I invite you to attend the RGS online session at 4 o'clock to discover more.
Teasing.
Thank you. We are actually almost running a little bit over time, unfortunately. Do we have some more questions from the audience maybe that we can tackle? Yeah, there's one over there and one over there.
Well, it's thank you, Sandra. It's actually a question. I was wondering, the cloud is a place where we can share some of our data, right? And if it's secure or not, well, time will tell. But there are challenges, and not only technological challenges, actually political challenges, all kind of challenges that we have with the cloud. But my question is to René Zamli from the International Red Cross. The International Red Cross has a culture like many other organizations, and they have data, they own data, or they have data that they cannot share. Absolutely not. Health profiles, sensitive data, all kind of data. So the question to the user, to the organization is, wouldn't it be good to have a system that can allow you to open up in the cloud when you feel that that you can share anything that you want, but keep some of your data within your firewall and expose it from servers? So a combination of the two, actually, or a combination of the different technologies, so that you can share some part of your data, and some other maybe you just want to share within your organization. I think the technology today provides that kind of flexibility. So the question to the user, really, of the data is, it's your pattern. Isn't it your pattern that you want to implement in a shared environment between the cloud and not the cloud?
I'm not sure if I understood the question now. So, but because anyway, the possibility to share, to have your data hosted locally and then share whatever you want to share, I think the technology allows anyway. And then it's just a question of data policy. And each organization has to have its own data policy on what you need to keep internal and what you want to share. Maybe that's a limitation if you go cloud only, is that you have to trust the supplier to, basically not to have your data being made invisible to anyone else than yourself. Whereas if you're on your own local, with your own local infrastructure and servers, okay, you manage the security yourself. But I don't know if it answers the
Yes, it
does.
It does, but partially. Actually, the question is, we've heard that there are some people on the stage that say, okay, I was born in the cloud, you can trust the cloud, go ahead. And my question is, well, it's great that we have the cloud, but wouldn't it be safe for your organization and the other organizations to implement your own pattern on the way you want to share or not the data in an environment that has a part in the cloud and another one on a server, so that you can control better? So I am a bit skeptic when all goes in the cloud and we say it's our culture, because actually the culture today, I don't think that we can say that the cloud is totally safe, and it's not showing respect to the organizations that will use the cloud, telling them that you can come in my cloud, it's all safe, just go ahead. People can have some doubts, they have their own culture, they have their own skepticism about it, and they should be able to implement their own solution, part in the cloud and part not.
No, absolutely. But maybe just to put things straight, as far as ICRC is concerned, as I said, we have almost zero of our data in the cloud. All our data is really stored in our own servers. That's it. Now, what I showed here is more an application for local authorities which do not have this capacity to set up their own servers. They do not have the staff, they do not have the workforce basically to run the shop themselves. So this is where, for non-sensitive data, you can outsource it. This is where, to me, this is really where the cloud gets extremely powerful, is that when you have data which is not very sensitive, but you need advanced data management capacity, advanced data sharing capacities, this is really where these cloud solutions have their best potential, I would say, and especially in the humanitarian world.
Thank you, Emmanuel, and thank you, René. I think Paola wants to say something to it, and maybe in the meantime the mic can go. There was one more question in the audience that we promised to tackle, so maybe we can just give the mic over to there.
I have a kind of a question to René. If I'm not mistaken, you have presented your cloud solution for local authorities in Ethiopia, the Magella. This is a question that probably is touching one of your discussion points, is HQ versus field, and the risk of breaking trust to the technology of field people towards new solution. What I try to explain myself better. I've been myself several times to several field offices bringing different solutions. And every time national mapping agencies of Ethiopia, meteorological authorities, and every time they see an international person landing on their offices proposing a new solution. And then probably that solution after a couple of years is not the same anymore, because the project manager has changed or the solution has collapsed, or so there is a risk there, which I would really like to stress, is that field, that's where terrain, the majority of the work is going on, need to build on knowledge, which is made of several solutions indeed, but to something stable, where every time there is somebody new with a new solution that is coming in their office, is not disrupting totally what they've been doing, but is building on. And this building on is very important because it's involving capacity, local capacity, is trust on technology, because I've heard many times in different countries, oh no, this is a different solution, it's a new project, it's another, which is good solutions, different solutions are good, but as implementers of effective systems, effective infrastructures, which have the final goal of geo-targeting, which have the final goal of guiding decisions, we have to be careful, we as a HQ base or a very stimulated people by different solutions, to think many times, is it something that is going to last? Is it something that in 5 years' time I'm not going to ask them to change it again for a number of reasons? So this is a point that I've been experiencing myself this in the field, and I think we should be all concerned when we go to the field and propose a new different system. What is it? Is it something that we can rely on?
Thank you. The last question. And very brief, please.
Yeah, I'm Chris Hepp from representing APTA. I'm going more on the technical side. As we're living here in Europe and the United States or whatever, we're used to now to fiber and shift, having connections with 10 or much more megabytes. The problem is, what's the impact of cloud application if you live in a developing country? And then even if you have a crisis in the developing country, as we are facing, like René said, as in the humanitarian world, we are often facing that. So what's the impact? Can we use that? Is that well investigated or what? That might be a short question for everybody. Thanks.
If just maybe one person could take that question. I don't know who wants to volunteer here.
I think René, because he talked about the mobile technology, the mobile connection, and I think it's a big hope.
No, but I think it's a key point. I mean, typically now in the solution that we put in place, we made sure that whatever happens, they could always get back to the previous system. That means having the data stored locally in Excel files. And I think this is very, very important, not to embark organizations or groups on technologies that they will not master in the long run. So I think that's one key point. Now, in crisis areas, what the experience shows, and I don't know, it will always be like that in the future, and if it will get better it will get better and better. But what experience shows is that usually GSM networks are some of the networks which are up the fastest, even after a crisis. So I'm not saying that you can always rely on it, and I mean, definitely also ICSC professionally, we always have our own means, satellites and so on, not our own satellites, but we will never rely on GSM only, but practice shows that GSM networks are usually set up very quickly, because also there's some economics behind it. So it tends to be faster than having water set up again or health services set up again.
Thank you so much. On this pad, I think we could have discussed this topic far much longer than we actually had, unfortunately. But our panelists are going to be around, so we have a coffee break now. So if you actually want to grab any of them and discuss anything further, we also have a workshop with ArcGIS online. If anybody is interested in that, has not subscribed for that slot yet, that's also a possibility. And then again, thank you so much to the panelists, and see you after the coffee break. Or maybe I should say, after the coffee break, we actually go into the different cell, and it's on the rooms, basically, which roundtable is being hosted in which room. So you have it on the map in your leaflet, and you also have it on the doors outside.